Ladies and gentlemen, another good video, gallstones. Okay, that organ called the gallbladder is a very, very important organ, and sometimes it's so unfortunate that some of you have chopped it off. It is not your fault. It's not the end of the world. We can simply correct some of the things here. But for those of you who still have a gallbladder, let's talk about that organ and how we end up having the gallbladder stones or the stones in the gallbladder. Okay, now understand this, that a gallbladder, let me just show you the image because that makes sense. We have the liver, and then the liver makes a lot of things. Of course, the liver is a home of literally everything: detoxification, formation of hormones, enzymes, immune system, and all that. But most importantly, the liver makes a substance called bile, and the liver is making this bile specifically to go and sequester the fats that are coming into the small intestines, or to make sure that it actually breaks them down into smaller portions that can actually be easily absorbed. So that's why the liver is making a lot of bile. But this bile, some of it will go direct, of course, into the small intestines, but storing this bile is in the gallbladder. So this organ here is one that is called the gallbladder, and it stores the products that are coming from the liver, and that product is the bile. But I want you to see this. This organ has three functions. One function is to store the bile. Okay, so the bile that has been made by the liver, it stores it so that after eating a fatty meal, it will be released into the duodenum. But as it is storing this bile, another function is to concentrate the bile. So we store it, and then as we store it, we concentrate it. There is a reason why we are concentrating that bile. I will tell you that reason. And then the last reason is to release as per need. So when food reaches into the small intestines, basically when you eat a fatty meal, and I'm talking about saturated fats, the animal fats. I'm not talking about the seed oils. So some of you will eat seed oils and then wonder, why do I have all these problems? When you eat fatty meats, when you eat foods made with ghee and all that, when that fat reaches into the small intestines, because the fat is not digested in the mouth or in the stomach, it has to get into the small intestines. And once it gets into the small intestines, there is a hormone that is released that is called CCK, cholecystokinin. This hormone is the one that instructs the gallbladder to contract. And once it contracts, it releases its contents in form of bile into the cystic duct. So this is a cystic duct, and then it goes and joins the common duct, which flows all the way, joins with the pancreatic duct to release pancreatic hormones and enzymes into the duodenum. Okay, so contents of the liver that are coming from the gallbladder will come and join with contents that are coming from the pancreas, the pancreatic enzymes and juices, and then they are released into the small intestines in the duodenum, the first part of the small intestine, to start or to continue the digestion processes. Okay, so that's how it happens. Now, we've stored it in the gallbladder, the bile, we have concentrated it, and now it's enough to go and do its function in the small intestines. But what are the composition of this bile? Because we want to know why we concentrated it instead of just releasing it from the liver all the way to the small intestines. So I want you to know the components of the bile, which is made by the liver, is the bile salts. These bile salts are very important because they are the ones that actually clear any form of cholesterol in the gallbladder. Now remember, gallstones are cholesterol crystals. So they are crystals of cholesterol that are very stubborn. They don't want to leave. They stick around and cause you problems. So it's the role of the bile salts to come and dissolve those cholesterol crystals so that we release them out. Okay. Now, having had that, you now understand that if these are cholesterol stones, it means we must have the bile salts, which are more, so that we can actually dilute these stones. So our major role in gallstones is to concentrate bile so that we make sure that we have more of the salts that will come in and clear the cholesterol. Okay, because again, the gallstones form due to an imbalance between the ratios of cholesterol and the ratios of the bile salts. So once you increase the ratio of bile salts through activating the liver to produce more of the bile salts, and also once you concentrate the bile salts by storing them in the gallbladder, we are able to clear the cholesterol that is actually being stubborn in the gallbladder. So understand that. So they are part of this composition of bile because their role is to make sure that the cholesterol flows out without having to become stubborn. So one composition of bile is bile salts. We have cholesterol, we have bilirubin, we have water, and then we have electrolytes. So these are all coming together to form the bile. Okay, and they play different roles. But the major one you should know is that the salts are important because they're the ones that actually clear the cholesterol crystals that we call the gallbladder stones or the gallstones. Okay, good. So once food reaches the small intestines, cholecystokinin is released. It goes and activates the gallbladder to contract and to release its product or its storage products in the concentrated bile. And then bile comes into the small intestines, and what it does is it causes, it sequesters these fats, actually makes sure that they can be easily absorbed through the membranes of the small intestines into the bloodstream, not into the bloodstream, into the lymphatic system, because fats are absorbed into the lymphatic system, not the bloodstream. Okay, so once it crosses over, now it's carried all the way to the fat cells for storage, where it will be tapped in later on to form energy or to form other things. So that is what is happening. So now look at it this way. Most people who have a fatty liver, most women who have a thyroid problem, most women who are on hormonal contraceptives, most obese people are the ones who suffer gallstones. And the problem is, the reason why they are suffering, because a fatty liver, its functions is now halted. So we don't have enough production of the bile salts that will go and clear out all these cholesterol stones that are called the gallstones. So fatty liver disease is a problem to most people. And where do we get the fatty liver disease? We get it from the diets. We enjoy, this is a non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So the fruits, the honey, the sugar cane, the fructose that is present in processed foods, the sodas and juices, all those are the reasons why you ended up having a gallbladder stone, and then you ended up getting rid of the gallbladder instead of concentrating the salts. So a fatty liver blocks you from producing enough bile salts to help you clear the gallstones. Hormonal contraceptives which come with estrogen. Estrogen is very detrimental to the contraction of the gallbladder. So it makes sure that all this bile is stored there and doesn't go anywhere. It starts to crystallize. Also, estrogen and obesity, they are hand in hand. So when you grow fat, you accumulate a lot of estrogen in the fats, and that brings a problem here again. So that's why most people who are obese, most people who are on hormonal contraceptives or the hormonal replacement therapy are the ones who suffer this, and also thyroid problems, because estrogen blocks the thyroid problems and thyroid function, and you experience these problems. So I want you to know this. Once you've understood the basics of this, you will see. And look at it this way. So we form a stone here in the gallbladder, and this stone can actually start moving. When the gallbladder contracts, this stone moves and can obstruct all these ducts wherever you see this. So when it obstructs the pancreatic duct, we start having a buildup of pancreatic juices and enzymes back into the pancreas. That is dangerous, because remember, these juices are highly toxic to the pancreas, which is protein in nature. So they can actually start destroying the pancreas, which is acute pancreatitis. That is now diabetes coming in. That is now indigestion problems coming in. Okay, number two, if we are blocking the bile, the common bile duct, that means you're going to accumulate a lot of bilirubin, which is going to cause us jaundice. Some of us have jaundice, the yellow skin, the yellow eyes, because of accumulation of bile, of bilirubin, which is basically an obstruction of the common bile duct. If you obstruct the cystic duct that is bringing in things from the gallbladder, that means you start having excess of the bile salts in the bile, sorry, in the gallbladder, and we can actually have the bile stones, the gallbladder stones, sorry. And we can also have infections of the gallbladder that will cause them to actually do a surgery, removal of the gallbladder. Now it's a problem, a serious problem, when you remove the gallbladder. When you go ahead and do a surgery and they remove your gallbladder, they've caused you more problems, because they would have advised you on how to win the common problem here, which is a non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, to improve the function of your thyroid, and to drop those hormonal contraceptives that you're on, to change the diet so that you can actually concentrate the bile salts that will help you clear the stones, to actually start fasting so that you can actually clear the gallstones, because fasting concentrates bile. Fasting heals a fatty liver disease, and therefore the function of the liver goes back to normal. The stones that are actually forming in the gallbladder will start being dissolved by the concentrated salts. So it's very easy to actually treat these things, some of these things. We don't need to go for a surgery. We don't need to go for, if it's an infection already here, you simply treat the infection and then encourage dietary modifications and fasting. So when we tell you, start eating clean, we are telling you to protect your liver so that the liver protects you. When you tell you to start fasting, we are telling you, if any case you've been eating unhealthy foods and your liver is already inflamed and you have a fatty liver, start fasting, because you need it to actually make sure the liver heals. You need fasting to improve the thyroid function. You need fasting to stabilize hormones like estrogen. So you need it. You need fasting to lose the weight. Once you lose the weight, your insulin resistance goes back to normal. You become insulin sensitive. Your estrogen go back to normal. You balance your hormones, and you'll never suffer from these gallstones. So why then do we have to go the longer route when we know when we remove this gallbladder, now what will happen is all the bile that will be produced will come straight from the liver into the pancreatic duct and into the small intestines. Yet this bile is not concentrated. So we will suffer for a lifetime. It will mean that we'll have to be put on drugs that will help us digest fat. Or else we'll always keep taking out stool that has fat. We call it steatorrhea, which is stool that has fat. It keeps on floating on the toilet. As you flush it down, it doesn't go. It just floats back because it's fatty. We will now have problems with absorption of fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. And now we go into deficiencies, and now another expense is coming in terms of the supplements. We will now have low immunity because vitamin D plays a very important role in immunity, and vitamin A also. Vision problems are coming in. Vitamin E is the one that the liver uses to detoxify the system. So again, we'll have problems with detoxification. So high toxin in the system. Vitamin K is used for clotting. So that tells you you'll end up having a lot of problems with clotting. If you injure yourself, you cannot clot blood and you suffer the consequences. Anemia is coming in. That tells you you'll have deficiency in production of hormones that are coming from the fats. The sex hormones, the stress hormone, cortisol. So the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Now hormonal imbalance is coming in. Digestion will be a serious problem for the fats and absorption of the fats. Now we have fat deficiency, the deficiency of the fats, which are very essential in our system, including formation of cell membranes. You see that? So cutting off this organ is not a solution. It's actually creating more problems for the future. Okay, unless otherwise this organ is totally failed. That one is another one. Or rather, if you have the gallbladder cancer, that's a different one. But if you just have gallstones, eat clean, start fasting, go and exercise, sleep early, okay, rehydrate with salt and water, and just exercise. All these things are going to make sense, and enjoy the sun so that you can actually boost the production of vitamin D. Vitamin D is also good in terms of concentrating the bile salts. So once you understand that the gallbladder stones are basically cholesterol in nature, you will simply understand that for you to clear them, you need to balance the ratio between the bile salts and the cholesterol. Once you balance the bile salts, or this is not stones, this salts. Once you increase the ratio of bile salts, the bile salts will do the rest for you. They will neutralize and dissolve the cholesterol stones, and this will be pumped out. And one of the symptoms of this condition is when you've just eaten a fatty meal, when you've gone out for nyama choma and you've eaten that fatty meat, you will feel a very, very excruciating pain when the gallbladder is contracting. Why? Because nothing is coming out because you blocked it or you blocked here. So you'll feel a very severe pain after eating a fatty meal. That's the major symptom. Okay, sometimes it's confused with the appendicitis and all that, and all these symptoms are confused. But anyway, I want you to know that if you're diagnosed with this through any techniques of diagnosis, it's time for you to actually now go serious on the diets. I thought you should know that, and this is just basically a summary of what gallstones are and the therapy of gallstones.